Well, hello everyone. Uh-oh. We might be having some technical difficulties. I'm checking in with it right now. Ah, there we go. We are transmitting. Everything seems like it's working. Can you guys hear me okay? Let me know over here in the stream once it catches up. Unfortunately, the 10 or so seconds of lag, I have been told by our IT department, not fixable. The good news is that there isn't an awkward 5 minutes of me monologuing this week trying to figure out if this thing is working because, well, I ran it right up to the wire, for one, and for two, I went ahead, had faith in my system, hit start streaming, and then all of a sudden it popped up and said live streaming isn't available right now. So the one time I actually have faith in this thing for it to do what it's supposed to do, it goes, nope, not playing, not gonna do it at all. Excellent, and I can see over here that you guys can hear me. That's a good thing. Water break. So how's the week going? I see that Finley has survived another week in retail hell. Allie is with us. I also see Maya Miller. Anyone else out there lurking in the stream today? Make yourselves available so that I might talk to you. It's very ironic that you say that. That's something that, John might say to Joyce. Don't trust this space snake technology. There's just too many questions right now. Yep, tangent practice. Gotta ramble off, gotta, you know, work on things, be all improvisational and entertaining and all that fun stuff. It's very exciting here at the studio. Damon Herrera, you made it in, buddy. I am so glad you got here this week. We were talking this morning. You said you might not. I was really hoping that that was going to work out, and here you are. Everybody can hear me. I'm not doing the Darth Vader thing. It's not all like, Luke, I am your father. Which that wouldn't that be a trip, right? Uh, no, but I don't. I'm nobody's father. In fact, I'm 100% certain I never will be somebody's father. Duh, right? But my gosh, I just made the conversation awkward. All by myself. I'm just sitting here monologuing, talking to you wonderful people. Well, as they say, Finley, proximity grants caution. From a distance, it's all whiz bang magic stuff. But when you get right up and see the nitty gritty, you actually get to see the gears and how it works behind. It can be scary, as they say. Never ask how the sausage is made, right? Yeah, well, mom is something. No, Allie, please don't call me daddy. That's just levels of strange. But I digress. Yeah, you've called me mom a lot, but I mean, what? But in one of my chat rooms, they refer to me as the Betty White of Bunny Books because I'm one of the oldest people there, and my response to that is always old but still lit. Dab. Because that's what all you newfangled kids are doing these days, right? The dab, or is it dab? Yeah, that's the dab, right? And now I'm just making myself even more awkward. This is my lot. This is just the way that it works in my life. But yeah, computers are just rocks we've tricked into being magical. Well, from an animist perspective, the magic was always there. It just needed to be coaxed out. I mean, hold on. But that being said, you know, I mean, that's all it really is. It's electrons running through a silicon matrix being interpreted across copper and all kinds of ways, little ones and zeros that somehow translate into code. It's all, I mean, we laugh at fantasy and science fiction. We're talking about like crystal vertices and intricate spellcasting patterns and stuff. But then you look at like an AMD processor chip or whatever, and it's layers upon layers of carefully arranged crystals of silicon that channel an invisible force, electricity, in such a way to represent instructions to something structured very much the same, and it somehow relates to us being able to talk to each other. It's freaking crazy. And that's just the world we live in. I mean, was it Einstein that said this could be absolutely spurious. I haven't looked it up, but it was Einstein or one great genius that actually said, "What is the domain of today's geniuses is the dominion of tomorrow's tinsmiths." And what that means is that a tinsmith, it was a fairly simple, low skilled profession, as I understand it. Choked up. Don't know why. Probably because I'm feeling awkward. Water break. So you guys feeling pretty good? Having a solid weekend out there in not Bunnyland? You want to talk about anything before we get into the reading today? We'll actually be starting with chapter 12 and probably going up to chapter 16, maybe 17. I haven't had much of a chance to look ahead. It's interesting. I take 2 days off a week from my physical training. One day is just a rest day where I absolutely flop, and then Saturdays are the days where I do my readings with Rebecca and I clean the house from top to bottom, get ready for the week, start, getting into that mode. And then Sunday through Thursday, I work out. And you'd think with 2 days off in a row that I'd have time to get everything done. And somehow it all backs up, on Saturdays, and I just rush, rush, rush. Well, we are going to be here every Saturday at noon, unless otherwise announced. We are going to be doing this at least once a week, but almost 99.99% of the time, I hope, Saturday at noon until I leave for the Pacific Crest Trail. In fact, the 20th of March is a Friday, so my last readings with Rebecca will be 6 days before I leave for the Pacific Crest Trail. Let's see here. We are in chapter 12, Mr. Moses. Joyce just kind of had this really weird event that happened. She kind of snapped out of herself. She went a little, shall we call it, feral. What's it called? The changes are proceeding apace. She just found out that she's got an offer to move in with Ricky up in Northern California. She's being evicted from her apartment, necessitating the relocation with Ricky. She just met the owner of the motor lodge that let them have the place for a steal for a Christmas party. And that's actually something I wanted to talk about that I didn't get to talk about last week. When Joyce is talking to, oh, what's his name? You think I know? I came up with it. Let's see here. I've got it here. Steve Berkowitz. And he was actually talking about how the lodge has been in his family since '62, before man walked on the moon. Not just lived there, just walked on the moon. And Joyce said, well, that's Jim Lovell and Apollo 13, right? And he had to correct her, said, no, that was Neil Armstrong, Apollo 11. How the world has changed. Well, the reasons that that's in there, besides being kind of funny and ironic, that Neil Armstrong would have faded into a more minor person in history, it's not exactly that. You see, as we talked about last week with the Farthest Star Universe, the world is now a global society. The United States has not existed in Joyce's time in over 40 years. 2 generations almost. Uh, the Age of Nations, as it is called. There has not been a nation that has existed in the world for over 40 years. We are a truly global society. We've got North American Sector 1, Mexico, North American Sector 2, America, North America Sector 3, Canada, Europe, Asia, all of those are broken up into similar sectors and sections, often according to national lines, but not always. Um, uh, and and so the world no longer national identities are greatly fading. There's still an understanding of East and West and the things of that, but it's fading into the background as the world has become more unified under the global banner of the United Earth Alliance. And so the achievements of America in 1960, while incredibly notable, were part of her middle school history class, covered once, and then moved on from. Someone that was not a huge history fan, therefore, would probably not pay the most attention. Now, the thing about Jim Lovell is that at the time of the Apollo program, Jim Lovell was the most experienced astronaut in the Apollo program. He had spent some of the most time in space. He had been part of the development of the Apollo program. He had been part of Gemini. He had been a part of Mercury, which is one of the reasons why they didn't send him up in Apollo 11, because they wanted to save a more experienced astronaut for a couple missions down the line. He almost crewed Apollo 12, but he got bumped to Apollo 13. And of course, his famous moment, there was an issue with the number 2 oxygen tank, I believe in the Odyssey command module, and it blew out the side of the craft. They almost died. And there was this harrowing moment. Wonderful movie by Tom Hanks, with Tom Hanks, directed by Ron Howard, I do believe, from the 90s, captures it absolutely beautifully. I still cry every time I see that Apollo rocket lift off because I'm a nerd and a softie. But you see, if you're learning a module about the Apollo astronauts, you're going to hear about how Neil Armstrong walked on the moon and was the first American to walk on the moon. But then you're also going to hear in your middle school history course about how Jim Lovell was just about the most experienced astronaut we had at that time. And so 20 years later, who do you think you're going to remember as the first person who walked on the moon, potentially? Jim Lovell and Apollo 13. It's kind of a long-winded, you kind of had to be there kind of explanation, but that's why that scene played out the way that it did. You get to see behind the scenes a little bit this week. And I appreciate that digression into honest to goodness history. As history that is honestly fading. We don't hear much about Lovell or the other Apollo astronauts. We focus so much on Neil Armstrong and that one achievement that we neglect the idea that we went to the moon 4 more times after Apollo 11. Apollo 12, Apollo 14, Apollo 15, Apollo 16, and Apollo 17 was the last mission. And then I believe it was Apollo 18 that was the Soyuz friendship mission, which was a time when there was a lot of hope in the Cold War in the 70s. And that was just an absolutely amazing thing at the time because we didn't go to the moon, but we docked with the USSR Soyuz capsule in orbit. We had to overcome those technical challenges. It was some of the first times NASA and the Russian cosmonauts worked together in space. They launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. We launched, of course, from Canaveral. So, I mean, Apollo is definitely history that should be remembered. And most people just remember Armstrong and 11. Apollo 1, which was just a test capsule, it caught on fire during testing. It's one of the reasons why they changed the design radically of the command module, because the 3 astronauts inside, who were contemporaries of Lovell and amazing heroes of our space program, they all burned to death. They gave their lives. They couldn't get the hatch open. They were in a pure oxygen environment, and there was too much flammable material inside, and it went up like a tinderbox. But most people today don't remember Apollo 1, I would risk to say. Most people today don't remember Apollo 13. Most people don't remember Apollo 15, which was the first time that we came back from the moon, and we didn't put them in isolation trailers because we knew for the first time definitively that there were no microbes on the moon for them to bring back. The last time that famous airstream that we see being used for isolation after a space mission was used in Apollo 14 aboard the U.S. aircraft carrier Hornet. And if you're ever in Alameda, the Hornet is available for tours, and they have a whole slew of space stuff on board because they were the primary retrieval vessel for Apollo astronauts. But now I'm rambling, which is something I do exceedingly well. Water break. Are you guys ready to get into the reading this week? Finley, I deeply appreciate that comment. I want my science fiction to be as real as possible. And with my background in history and my husband's background in physics and quantum mechanics and stuff like that, we're able to make a fairly good go of it. But enough of me talking and lauding our achievements, such as they are. Let's get into it. Dawnbreak by Rebecca Mickley, Chapter 12. Joyce? Joyce, can you hear me? Asked a heavily Russian-accented voice. There was a bright light in my eyes. Yes? My thoughts were moving like frozen jello. What happened? You had a neurological event, my dear. Welcome back. he congratulated. The light mercifully left my eyes. Sitting up and looking around, I recognized the smells of the United Earth Medical Center. How long have I been here? John was sitting in a corner, a look of deep concern on his face. About a day, but everything is fine and will be fine. Remember, you are a pioneer, he reminded. So tell me what's happening, I ordered, not wanting to be placated. As you know, you are among our first 250 and our first feral. The process, as a result, has been much more intensive for you than the rest, and we suspected this. However, during the simulated trials, there was no surge, he explained, which only confused me further. Surge? I asked. Yes, we thought it was a diagnostic error at the time, but there was a dramatic uptick in activity along a 96-hour window, roughly Sunday through Wednesday. There was an uptick in stress hormones and it sent the nanites into overdrive. We are, in short, learning things as we go, he said. That's roughly when I got the eviction notice, I announced. As Andropov's face lit up with interest, he began making notes rapidly. Fascinating, he replied. It's a trial. It's a trial. I know there were risks. How bad is it? Am I okay? My tone conveyed my worry through the caller. It looks like we might be slightly exceeding our upper safety threshold. We're going to keep you for a few days, run some function tests, do some more intensive scans, and make sure everything is okay. After this, we will dial back some on your booster regimen to balance out the system. Also, we are going to make some changes to your tanking schedule, he announced ominously. How bad is it? I asked. All will be well, but I remind you, again, you are a pioneer. We are learning much from you with all the surprises along the way. As such, we will continue to tank you in February, but we are going to go slower, adding at least another month to the process. I want to monitor your changes and make sure we avoid another surge. That will put your emergence roughly around Halloween, he explained as I chittered worriedly. 8 months? Okay, you're the doctor, I said, my nervousness evident. Everything will be fine, but coming back around to your neural event, you may have some spaciness and greater flexibility issues going forward. I will be direct. There is very little we can do about those if they present themselves. He laid it all out as if he was ordering a pizza. I recognized the training. Thank you, doctor. I understand. I'll be back in to check on you later, he replied, and left. Joyce, how are you feeling? John asked, as if unleashed by the doctor's absence. Fine. Kinda hyper. Nervous? Hungry? I reported. I'm worried about you, he replied. I chirred and reached out, pulling him down for a hug as contented noises, a rumbling, flowed from my throat. It's fine. I can be a little spacey, John. I'm becoming an otter, I reminded him. Yeah, but all those talks about not losing yourself, not being first, don't let your eagerness get you killed, as it were, John chided, in worried tone. I know, and as hard as I try to be objective about it, even the scary parts have a kind of joy. I don't want to lose myself. I'm glad they caught it. Really glad. I was just a day away from the week booster trip, and who knows what that would have done, I said, assuming that this week's dose was a firm skip. Okay, just ease back, okay? You're my best friend. Need you around for when it's my turn. He slipped a card into my right forepaw. The edge caught my paw pad, and I twitched. They were getting sensitive in some ways. Turning it over, it revealed the name of a real estate agent in Kelowna, John's hometown. The cabin's going on the market in February. Pulled some money out of savings from my time deployed and have a crew out there fixing it up. Going to buy an old shuttle, put it in storage, and when my enlistment is up, join you out there on Sentioc. You need to be around for that, he announced. The tears again. It was a promise, a commitment that I would not be leaving him behind. He was moving slower, but he would join me out there. A nurse entered and patiently waited for John and I to finish her conversation. "Going to go down to the cafeteria. You want anything?" he asked. I clung to the paper card like it was a fine treasure. "Fish," I replied. "I might have guessed," he answered, and left. "Name?" the nurse asked, stepping up as John exited, scanning my bracelet, reading a display. "Joyce Coswell." Date of birth: February 23rd, 2049. "Do you know where you are right now?" The by 3 awareness check. United Earth Medical Center. "And who is the Chancellor of Earth?" she pushed. "Last question if I got it right." "Vicky Gomez. I think we can do better." The nurse smiled a sympathetic professional smile and hung the bag, leaving. Chapter 13. You guys doing alright out there? For me, that was a short chapter. We might actually push forward to 16 today. We'll just have to see how this goes. Chapter 13. Function tests, they call them. Try as I might, I could only see them as games. "Okay, tap the blue squares that pop up on your screen this time," Dr. Andropov ordered, over a speaker from another room. I was wearing a sensor cap, outputting to any number of machines. "Ready to play," I responded eagerly, bouncing in my seat. There was a growing energy to my moment-to-moment existence that kept me on the edge of everything, always ready to move and engage. The screen filled with a box that then resolved to large squares of various colors. I eagerly set to my task. Hours of this ticked by, not purely digital. One involved stacking cups, of all things. It honestly wasn't a bad way to spend an afternoon. Finally, exhausted, I was wheeled back to the hospital bed. Dr. Andropov entered with a booster bag. "I thought we were slowing down," I said, confused, emitting my chirp-like bark, softly. "We are. Only one bag this week. Slow down does not mean stop," he grinned, pausing to wink. "Am I going home soon? I need to pack," I asked. End of the month was approaching, and I had to be out in 9 days. Coordinate with Ricky, all of that. "After this bag, in fact. While you are waiting, would you connect your tablet to the hospital server and log into your patient account? There are some apps you need to download. I'll explain with your discharge package," he said, absently, as he checked the flow for the bag and then left. Using my tablet was becoming a function test in and of itself, but gradually I managed, only closing the window by accident 4 times. Curiosity got the better of me. I had nothing better to do. There were function tests, like Tap the Square. More games. Diving in, it provided ready distraction between the waves of physical symptoms that ebbed and flowed as the treatment drained down into my IV line. A wave of familiar tiredness threatened to drag me down. Must be about an hour and a half in, I thought, before the world faded around me. "Joyce? Joyce?" A heavily accented English again. Dr. Andropov. My eyes clicked open. "Yeah?" I acknowledged blearily. My head was pounding, but otherwise my world was warm and comfortable. An angrier chitter escaped my throat. I wanted to sleep. "We are about to wrap up here. Your friend is waiting for you down in reception. It is time for discharge. But first, once you've woken up a bit, we will talk a little more about the road going forward." His plans for my non-drowsiness were optimistic, at best. I sat up, willed myself to focus, using the back of my paws to rub the sleep out of my eyes, and then I groomed some. It was comforting. The doctor made a few notes on his clipboard that he almost always seemed to carry. It was either that, or he summoned it by some strange technology. More than likely it stayed hidden in a pocket inside his lab coat. So, I see from the data I am getting here that you've already discovered your function tests. The doctor waggled his mysterious digital clipboard and I tracked it eagerly. Games, I nodded, and he chuckled. You have become very play-oriented. It's interesting to see how your psychology is changing. He pointed out the obvious, but then made a note. He seemed to be enjoying this almost as much as I was. Glad to be fun for you, Doc. I smiled. Yes. Anyhow, at least an hour per day. I do not think that will be a problem, though. What we are seeing from your scans the last few days is that regular stimulation prevents you from falling into certain rhythms that lead to a kind of cascade. An update has been pushed to your bracelet to show you accumulated time, he said, indicating with his right hand. Tapping it, it showed my time left till my next booster dose, and then another section flashed by. Test 42 minutes 35 seconds out of 60. A happy chirr ensued. I was already ahead. More notes on the clipboard. What do you keep writing down? I asked, my curiosity surging. He startled, taken a bit by my directness. Sorry, I excused. Just curious. Just notes about your changes. Everything is fine. He made more notes. A higher pitched bark presented itself, and I blushed under my fur. Even more notes! Ah! Quickly, taking up my tablet and fumbling paws, I set in on my game and ignored the doctor for a moment. My world calmed. Joyce? He asked. I looked around and set down my tablet. The bracelet vibrated. 10 more minutes. Ooh, I'm almost to goal. Joyce, he said again. Sorry, lots going on in my world. Kind of distractible, I answered. More notes. Maybe if I took his pen. No, that would be bad. Yes, as I said, the neurological changes will persist on some level. You seem to be adapting to them fine, though. Keep up with the tests, and we will see you next week. A noise distracted me from the nurse's station. I looked away. When I turned my head back, Dr. Andropov was exiting, and the clipboard had vanished from view. The mystery continued. So Joyce has gone ADD. And we are at chapter 14. I will be honest. I channeled some of my own experience here because I do have attention deficit ooh shiny. I know that I must seem like the other picture of calm with my ramblingness and my tangential behavior and my almost passable voice work, but no, I'm kind of a spaz. Apparently this isn't just readings with Rebecca, this is confessions with Rebecca. But it's like I have to cut myself off from coffee after a certain time or I will not sleep. I will bounce off the walls like flubber on amphetamine. Now there's a good metaphor. But no, I grew up. I was an ADHD kid. Uh, Eventually they got sick of me and put me on meds. And that persisted for a long time, but when I was 17, I decided to strike out on my own and embrace the spaciness. Allie, you are so much fun. You guys are all fun. Finley and Allie and Maya. I'm really glad that you all are here. I've got 6 concurrent viewers. But you 3 are the ones talking to me, so you guys get the attention. I know A. Moses is out there somewhere. I know Damon is out there somewhere. At least I hope so. We've lost one person since the stream started. But I digress. Once again, I'm being distractible. Let's continue on, shall we? Flubber on amphetamines. Yep, there we go. It's good stuff. Chapter 14. It was Christmas. Moving day was 3 days away. The apartment was looking barren, and aside from my function tests, my function games, there was a new hot ticket in town. Put the right thing in the right box. It was so simple. Embarrassingly simple, but the fact that it involved repetitive tasks that involved hunting objects and being quick gave me a way to compete with both myself and John. It was exhausting, but I had kept it up, nosing in the cupboards and emptying out drawers. "That's another one," he teased, inspiring an angry chitter. "You're wiping the floor with me," I complained. "Should I go easy on you, Fluffy?" he continued. That deserved an angry bark. He got one. He narrowed my eyes. "So very fierce," he replied, holding up his hands. The bastard had disarmed me. I blushed under my fur and churred. Waddling slowly towards the bedroom, I found a few things we had missed and completed my set. "Another for me," I announced with ample pride, and flopped, exhausted. Without asking, he set a squeezable water bottle nearby. Gripping it in both paws, I tilted it up and carefully swallowed down some water. "Thank you," I replied. There was a fuzzy feeling, followed by a white noise. Then my voice collar popped. "Another outage?" he asked. My ability to use it came and went, but I had it down pretty solid by this point. "Yes, I think it's down," I tried to say. Failing, I looked up at him and nodded. He used the opportunity to stack the most recent boxes in the ever-filling dining room. We only had a narrow path left to the kitchen. "Focus, Joyce," I ordered, then became distracted by a ball of lint that floated by my vision. Damn it. "Focus, turn on, you damn machine!" Patered. "Got it back," I replied. 2 minutes this time. A new record. He tapped his watch, stopping the timer. Lately he had been encouraging my playfulness. My stomach then rumbled. I went to get up, but found that I couldn't. My skeleton felt locked. From one problem to another. "If you don't mind, I'm going to lay here a while," I announced. "Can't move?" He knew me. "Yep." There was a knock at the door. I flailed, trying to move. "Don't get up. I'll get it." John drifted by effortlessly and opened the door without a problem. I remembered when I could do things like that. Not being able to move always depressed me. I flailed a bit more. There was a loud pop in my back that caused a wave of pain to race down my legs, sending tingles through my flippers and paws. Ow! That was stupid. But at least I could move. Hail Joyce, master of her domain, conqueror of the jury-rigged skeleton. John finished opening the door just as I managed to stagger myself up with the help of my friend, the couch, revealing Ricky and Sonia. They were wearing Santa hats. Ricky had a number of boxes and a cooler with him. "Happy holidays!" He stepped in with a flourish and executed an unintentionally murderous grin. His smile was made of daggers. I suppose I was doing little better these days. "Guys, but what? John!" I complained. "Hey, it can't be work all the time," Ricky shrugged. Quickly, making room on top of a level set of empty boxes, Ricky set down the contents he was carrying, inspiring in me an immediate curiosity. Ignoring my interest, John set out 2 folding chairs for our guests in front of the parcels, and they sat, occluding my view. I chittered in annoyance. "So the place is coming apart, eh? Movers coming Monday still?" Ricky asked. His form made a series of rhythmic, rapid pops as he sat down, and I saw him wince. Sonia looked around quietly before waving awkwardly. Hi, everyone. This is a surprise, I said, stating the obvious, trying to start a conversation about something other than boxes. Well, holidays is about family, and starting a colony together seems to rank up there. Not too many days left to celebrate before we were packing up to go. Last Christmas before the tank. Ricky had a point. Next Christmas I'd be almost 2 months out. I would be an otter. The idea excited me. Anyone else want a beer? John rose and fished one out of the refrigerator, carefully navigating around the moving, inspired maze that was occupying more and more of the open floor space. Hey, man, quit reading my mind. Wait for the movie, Ricky complained, and then flexed a paw, his retractable claws briefly popping up. Sonia just shook her head. Her changes, at least personality-wise, had been the most dramatic. A few months ago, she was on the verge of being nosy. She was a tax lawyer and doing most of the colony's accounting. There was a fire, an assertiveness to her that had now faded some. She was practically hiding behind Ricky. Water, please, if that's okay. Folding her paws, putting them in her lap, she looked down at the floor. There's a heavy drinker coming out, John intoned with a joke. Bright, happy, fun holiday times. I forgot about the boxes. So have you heard? Ricky flashed a grin. Heard what? Is everything okay? My panic quickly jumped. The only time things were newsworthy anymore was when things were on fire. I preferred my cartoons. In that world, cats could recover from falling anvil hits. There had been another murder of a Morphic just last week. They had been slated to be in the second half of the first 500. I only caught the headline. In truth, I already knew the story. Pain was always something humans liked to inflict on what they did not understand. Easy. Relax. I was up at the ship in Boneyard Gemini. Oh, she's pretty. Reminds me of my days as a cadet. He took a pull off his beer and I saw John grow more interested. You were a cadet on a Gen 1? John asked, and Ricky laughed. Sonia and I shared a look. Here we go. Oh yeah, man. Back in the cowboy days. Vision initiators and everything. Seat of your pants, shit breaking left and right. People don't realize how bootstrapped the first 50 were. Once they had to take the hammerhead down for a retrofit. Those Beck 2 upgrades. God, what a fucking nightmare, he complained nostalgically. His eyes sparkled as he remembered the past. Sounds like you miss it, John commented. The statement made no sense to me, but Ricky nodded eagerly. Every day. I'm looking forward to getting back out there. My last deep space trip, hauling us fuzzies to our new home. He took another long pull and his eyes took on a far look. You say that, but I still have to get the taxes filed and the regulations worked out with UEA Treasury for the tax schedule, or we're going to have a real issue going forward into the next fiscal year, Sonia mentioned in apparent Greek. We all blinked, flabbergasted, and she briefly pulled away from the conversation. Well, that's what we have you for. I'm the mechanical engineer. You are the financial engineer. He chuckled. As if some hidden signal was sent, John rose and began moving boxes into the kitchen, except for the cooler. A Christmas feast made for fuzzies, Ricky announced, finally, setting the cooler down in front of me. My eyes danced in revelry at what it might contain within, and I barked eagerly, doing everything I could to restrain my curiosity. Ricky, I think I love you, John called out, removing 2 thick steaks from a box. One of those is for me, man. Don't get greedy, Ricky chided. Sonia quietly picked her way into a kitchen and found a pair in a box, with a few cans of bamboo shoots. Letting the men do the kitchen work, we fell back and watched. "Should we be recording this?" she asked, showing signs of life beyond tax code. "It's a brave new world. Everything is changing." We shared a conspiratorial giggle. John pulled out a pan from under the cabinet, which made a cacophonous noise and hurt my ears. "Don't burn mine. I like it rare," Ricky micromanaged. "You remind me of a sergeant I had back in basic. He was always riding my ass," John replied in playful banter. Military men. "Joyce, are you going to open yours?" Ricky asked, and John looked up with a grin. My focus immediately recentered from the drama in the kitchen to the plastic mystery in front of me. I was teeming with curiosity and excitement. Drawing closer, a clinging smell around the cooler sent lightning flashes through my brain. An excited grunt followed as I opened it, and the rest of the smells washed over me. Trout fillets and mussels. Real mussels. An explosion of happy, ephemeral noises exploded from my throat, and a volcanic eruption of chittering, clicking, and chirping. Everyone laughed. 1 hour later, we could all barely move, having eaten our weight in food. Sonia was still going, determined to eat double her weight in bamboo shoots, while Ricky made a low, guttural, almost meowing growl, holding his stomach. "Really glad it's not one of the sick days," he remarked absently. The two other actively shifting morphics in the room, Sonia and I, nodded eagerly, agreeing with his assessment. "Too good of a meal to lose," John added, sprawled out on the couch. "A swim would be nice," I commented absently, thoughts drifting to the lapping of waves against my back in a comfortable sea as I idly played with some empty mussel cells still remaining on my chest. "You know, what's stopping us? This place has a hot tub, doesn't it?" John asked the room. I had been afraid of my community since the angry notice about the colony meeting. Being evicted hadn't helped either, so I had become a ghost, barely leaving my apartment. This felt like defiant rebellion, almost as if I was throwing a Molotov of my own through the front office. "I don't know," Sonia volunteered, sounding as unsure as I felt, as she finished off another can of the shoots. "What's the harm? You're a paying tenant. There's no rule against it. You're out of here Monday, and it's going to be empty because of the holidays. Frankly, Joyce, fuck 'em. You have every right," John said, defiance burning in his voice. "He is technically correct." Sonia checked in, legal training evident. "Still, what about Ricky?" I was running out of excuses, and it did seem like a great idea. "Oh, you're thinking of house cats, sweethearts. Ocelots are swimmers. Who do you think caught that trout you inhaled?" He flashed a grin. "Was a fisherman before. I'm a fisher cat now." John disappeared and returned with a number of drawstring shorts and black t-shirts. 5 years in the military. Every event has some kind of free shirt. John and Ricky were roughly the same size, but Ricky was a little more squat and stocky. "Come on, Sonia, let's see what we can find," I offered, and she eagerly joined me. 10 minutes later, and we all looked as if we had been part of some kind of gem rat apocalypse. Black Central Command Fun Run half-marathon shirts hung large from the diminutive frames of Sonia and myself, hiding the shorts we were wearing, evident only by the long drawstrings that went down almost to the floor. John and Ricky looked much more normal, minus the fact that Ricky had the fur markings of an ocelot and retractable claws on both his hands and hind paws. The Dolphin Bay preferred to bill itself as a luxury rental experience. This meant it had a closet for a gym and a spa room consisting of a large hot tub and a heated pool. They were fine luxuries if they weren't intended to be used by a community of 700 people. 4 years, and I had seldom used the amenities I had paid all the extra rent for. Hot tubs are less fun when they are filled with strangers. My hind flippers slapped noisily against the concrete. I wasn't wearing shoes. There was little point. And then I slipped into the water of the heated pool. My fur, and the oils on it, though incomplete, were keeping me partially dry. Then something kicked in. My body relaxed. I flipped over on my back and floated. It was rapturous. "I think we've lost the otter," I heard Ricky mention distantly. Why hadn't I done this before? A half hour of warm, inky blackness descended, buoyed on the edges by the distant sound of distant conversations coming from the hot tub. Joyce? I perked up and thrashed over in the water and swam over to the edge of the pool. It was much easier to move, and I reveled in the freedom. "Yeah? Going to join us over here or swim by yourself all night?" John asked. I was torn, but why not? Pulling myself out, my body sagged and protested against the weight, but it was short-lived. I could float all I wanted later. My friends had helped me find my courage and face my fears. Now they just wanted to spend time with me. Fair trade. John scooted to make more room in the hot tub, bumping into Sonia. I splashed in. They say if you give an otter a thimbleful of water, they can soak a room. This was my legacy. "Hey, fish breath," he said as he pushed some water at me. I chittered in defiance. Muscles uncorked from tension, and I felt another nap threatening to come on. "So, John, when do you deploy out?" Sonia asked, elements of her curiosity still showing through her new shyness. "On the 3rd. Going to see Aqua Girl here off on Monday, and then head up to the cabin in Kelowna a few days, sort some things out." The news of the Danube going in for a retrofit was all over the place. His orders were hardly classified. She was to be in the first group of gate-capable ships. They were going to be our escort out to Sentioc, the first contact team ferrying the first Morphics to Sentioc 1. John reported to me in confidence that the Mendians had ate that up. Suddenly, 2 people walked into the pool room. The woman screamed, the man dropped his keys. Scurrying back, they slowly made their way out. "Oh shit," Ricky said, looking around. "Let's stay," John insisted, spoiling for a fight. A nervous bark escaped my throat, and I chirped a bit, distressed, looking around. That's when I noticed the surveillance camera was broken. It was a serious safety issue, but it also made way for an opportunity. An idea hit. "No, let's vanish. Hide. Sneak back to the apartment. Let's mess with their heads," I urged, gesturing to the broken camera. Our window was closing. They could be calling security, but the side exits led out to the parking lot. It could work. "If we aren't here, we can deny," chimed Sonia, being the legal eagle. Red Panda. She got it. "Exactly. I don't know what they're talking about. They're nuts. We've been here all night." "How many people do you need for a solid alibi?" I asked Sonia. "Trial law is not my area, but 2, she replied. John flashed that wicked grin. It matched the dagger showing from Ricky's smile. The 2 military men moved according to their training and in seconds were ready to go. Sonia and I anchored them and risked it all. But we held. Looping back through the shuttle parking lot, we cut a wide arc and quietly re-entered the apartment through the patio door, then set up the screen with a casual family game. The scattered plates and glasses left over from dinner provided ample evidence we had spent the evening in. An hour passed, quick showers ensued, and I was out of towels and dish rags for all the fur we had to collectively dry. John had to use one of his fun run shirts. He drew the short straw, having only skin to worry about. Nervously, I watched the clock. An hour and 20 minutes ticked by. A sharp, angry knock rocketed through the apartment. It was Clark, the building manager, flanked by two security guards. "Got a complaint you were at the pool," he announced without preamble. "Nope. Been here all night," I flatly denied. His eyes narrowed on me. "And even if she hadn't, might I inquire how it would be against the rules?" Sonia rose, finding a shaky confidence. "And you are?" He stiffened up, trying to intimidate her. She flinched, but held. "My name is Sonia Richards, Esquire, attorney at law." The words hung in the air with all the indications of a threat as she handed over her card. He looked at it, then around the room and grumbled, the air quickly deflating from his jackboot bravado. "Never mind. Be out by the end of the month." He turned and walked off. I slammed the door behind him, and we all waited a moment for him to walk away, eyeing each other conspiratorially. Then the dam broke, with Ricky losing it first. "Oh my God! Did you see the look on his face?" He yelled in between high arcing fits of a screeching laughter. "Best Actor award has to go to Sonia Richards, Esquire, attorney at law. That was fucking brilliant. You might as well have kicked him in the balls," John commented, and even though her skin was hidden by fur, I could tell Sonia was blushing. "Everyone fears lawyers." Sonia flashed a grin. Her eyes shone with pride. "So let's keep the party going," Ricky commented as John tossed him another beer. Chapter 15. Yeah, Clark's an asshole. You guys having fun? Water break. Oh my goodness. Moving right along. But yeah, it's a brave new world. There's lots of challenges. Becoming an otter for Joyce, of course, is very physically challenging, but I'd wager the flack she's getting from society is just as hard. No one, or at least not everyone, sees her really as a person anymore. There's a truth that she's hidden her whole life because she's afraid of being isolated, being mocked, being made into a spectacle. She can't hide that truth anymore. The second that she decided to live as an otter in many ways in human society, she painted a target on herself. Because, and it's completely unfair, but this is by and large true, humans fear what they don't understand. So it was never going to be an easy road. The physical changes are probably the smallest part of the hard road that she's on. But I mean, you don't have to be a future sea otter to know that, do you? I mean, I think a lot of people that are drawn to the farthest star books are often the outcasts, are the ones that have struggled. And Joyce faces it all with an attitude of hope. No matter what happens, she follows her dream. Yeah, I think we could all learn something from Joyce, Allie. I really do. I think she's inspiring. And in a way, she's my creation. Well, she is my creation, but when you become a writer, you find out that the story kind of has to write itself. start off with the idea of a character and they kind of take on a life of their own after a while. And so I look at Joyce and I see a lot of things that not only that I wish to emulate, but that I deeply admire. That I wish were more prevalent in myself sometimes. But anyway, ramble, ramble, ramble. Tangent, tangent, tangent. Let's continue, shall we? Chapter 15. It was moving day. Everything was sore. I attempted to slide off the air mattress, and I couldn't. John, I called out. Silence. Anyone here? Hoping for Ricky or Sonia. Nobody. Shit. A white flash of pain erupted from behind my eyes, and then a familiar pop was heard from my voice collar. Double shit. A tense chirping bark followed. Everything hurt. Yesterday I had seriously overdone it with the packing. I needed to pee. Willing my legs to move, or more so my flippers to respond, they only twitched. I could feel them, but my skeleton was locked. This did not feel like a game. This was not fun. I was trapped. Desperate. Finally, I flipped myself over and dragged myself by my forepaws into the bathroom and made it to the tub. It was undignified and terrible. I could still cry, I discovered. Midway through a very awkward shower, something cracked and it made me scream in pain. My world sparkled and my chest heaved with endorphins as everything got heady from the rush of it all. Finally, I could move my hindquarters again. Shaking and unsteady, I got myself pulled up and cleaned off. Hobbling very slowly, every movement was an agony, and although famished, I did not have the energy to think about eating. Couch and cartoons. Save me, sweet canary. Flopping onto the couch with all the grace and trajectory of a tumbling spacecraft, my skeleton protested angrily, rewarding me with more pain before sliding into an uneasy comfort. Why was I doing this to myself? The question offended me. The idea that even part of me could question, would question, an angry chitter escaped my throat. No, fuck off, brain. This is my dream. It was a bad morning. A very, very bad morning. And I was alone. More tears. Damn it, stop! A familiar sense of anger and self-hatred, like an old friend, sat down at the edge of the couch with me, setting its pitchfork down on the table. I could almost see its demonic grin as it leaned over me with a diabolical sneer. You didn't think you'd be rid of me that easily, did you? Vaudevillian laughter. It snapped me out of my daydream. The cat on the screen was considering making a deal for its soul with the cartoon devil. I skipped to the next one in the queue. My stomach rumbled as hunger won the battle over lethargy. Straining, I went to get up, only to find that my skeleton was locked again. My range of motion limited. More crawling, dragging myself by my forepaws across the floor, and then back again, the day intent on putting me through my paces. Falling asleep on the way, I eventually woke up in even greater pain to find John kneeling over me worriedly. Joyce, are you okay? Ricky and Sonia were standing in the door with grocery bags. I saw John had his tablet in hand, ready to dial emergency services. I'm fine. No, I'm not fine, but I'm stable medically, I quickly explained through my non-working voice collar. Fuck! I nodded, indicating I was okay, but then cried. I'm sorry I wasn't here, he said as he held me. It hurt me. I didn't care. A squelched yelp followed as he lifted me gently and got me set on the couch. Do you need the doctor? He asked. Ricky and Sonia quietly slipped in and set down the bags. Hey, a trooper feeling bad? Ricky asked. Sonia chirred worriedly. My friends surrounding me was the first bright light of my morning, the feelings of family. I held up my forepaw and waggled it. Voice collar is out, I take it, Sonia asked, and I chirped, nodding in confirmation. The apartment became a flurry of activity as Ricky, Sonia, and John worked to set me up. A can of tuna and a few gulps of water later, and my mood was steadily improving. Focus on the words. Push them to the collar. You stupid damn machine! Everyone looked over at me. Finally! It had been hours. A weight lifted off me. It's been a bad day, I reported. It felt good to finally be able to get that out. Booster! Booster! My wrist device vibrated. Ah. Don't move. I'll get it, John announced, loading the dose carefully and bringing it to me. It activated and I shotgunned it down. The morning began to arc vaguely up. Then the movers came. Everyone exploded into activity, except for me. I couldn't move my hind flippers and was stuck on the couch. Everyone helped as the boxes emptied and the apartment grew more sparse by the moment. Again, except for me. Even trying to get up had inspired a 15-minute nap. Frustrated chitters, deep vexation, this awful day, existing as a figurehead at the center of my life. An observer, not a participant. The newness had worn off. I was accustomed to difference. Now there were just the consequences and the costs laid bare. No excitement, no overwhelming joy. My forepaws were common. My fur, every day. But now I couldn't move. I couldn't help, couldn't participate. God damn it, this sucked! More frustrated noises, sounding more like an animal than anything. That thought brought a warm feeling of joy, confirming this was no question of identity. There was no regret of the program in that moment. It was the frustration at the cost. I wanted it to be over. But how much easier was life going to be as a quadruped? There was nothing better to do but watch my friends and the hired laborers do my work for me, so I dove into the introspective, feeling no need even for games. This was no time for play. I hurt. Even my canary abandoned me as the apartment emptied around. They had to take the screen at some point. Finally, as I looked sullenly out through the sliding glass door at the beautiful sunshine-filled day outside, brooding over my predicament, John approached. You're the last thing to pack, he mentioned, trying for levity, instead stabbing me unknowingly right where it hurt. I can't walk right now. I don't know what to do. I broke down in tears. He knelt and comforted me. I feel so goddamn useless right now. Every part of me was trembling with shame and despair. All I wanted to do was sleep. It's okay. You're sick, and it's making everything terrible. Hang in there, Aqua Girl. You're tough. It was the second time he had used that nickname. I smiled, in spite of myself. Don't feel so tough, I replied, sullenly. It's the only time it shows. It's not about what's easy, he began, It was an old saying of ours. It had gotten us through many nights, and I knew it well. It's about what's right, I replied, and my conviction firmed up underneath me. The hard truth of it, looking deep within, considering all of the challenges ahead and behind me. I'm becoming an otter, I said simply. Yes, you are. And no matter how hard it gets, you've got people to get you through it. He and Ricky carried me, with the couch, to the base of the rusted shuttle, and then gently transferred me on board. Chapter. It's not all fun and games, is it? It's... Dreams are beautiful things to have. But dreams... The more beautiful the dream, the greater the sacrifice, isn't it? They're mirages on the horizon until you start moving forward to attain them. And sometimes to attain them, you have to go over mountains and through valleys that are unimaginable in their challenge and scope. Real talk, getting kinda heavy. You guys doing okay? Let me know. You know, this... You alright there, Finley? We can talk about it if you want. But I do think it's going to get better from this point. In fact, I'm pretty sure it will. Those old wounds hurt, but you can hold your head up with pride knowing that you were there for someone as they became more themselves, regardless of how it turned out. That's a special thing. It really is a special thing. And I know that you two aren't together anymore from what you just said, but I think you're awesome. Yeah. It's the thing about love, man. It leaves, so it can leave some pretty bad scars sometimes. You know, there's that famous cliched line, I think it's from Shakespeare. It's better to have loved and lost than have never to have loved at all. And I loved a retort I heard one time to that. This person looked right at him and said, "Try it." But no, Finley, you're an absolute badass, and you've got my respect. Let's press on and let's see if we can find some more positives, shall we? We're on chapter 16. I think we'll do one more and then we'll see where we're at for the day. Does that sound good? Sounds good to me. Water break. Chapter 16. Snow was everywhere. Mount Shasta imposed greatly on the skyline, dwarfing the 3-bedroom cabin that perched on 5 partially cleared acres that belonged to Ricky. His retirement retreat. It was private and quiet, everything I needed in my last few weeks before the tank. John was back on the Danube and firmly out of contact, but I had been almost too busy to miss him. I would soon be sleeping for 7 months. And then, shortly after, moving to a new planet. Wheelchair bound and hurting terribly, there was still so much left to do. Ow! A plaint of whine escaped Sonia's mouth as she gripped her right forepaw, dropping the pen she was holding. Her fingers were much more clubbed, and dexterity was becoming harder for her. Still, she was light years ahead of me, and she had been filling out the forms. Over the last 2 weeks I had watched the quality of her handwriting degrade from lawyer to medical doctor. Still, the best I could do anymore with a pen approached preschool. She firmly had me beat. "Yeah, I think I'm done for the night," she announced. It was 9 in the morning, which made for the end of her day. She and Ricky both were nocturnal by species and preference, leaving me with quiet afternoons to myself. The 2 shifts meant that the work really never had to stop, though, and plans for the colony were moving apace. "I think we're going to make it at this rate. Knock off for the day," I commented, tapping through a digital form on my tablet. Carefully. Accessibility features made it easier, making some things bigger and easier to target with my paw pads. It was like a more difficult function test. My entire life had become a more difficult function test. "Booster! Booster!" Sonia's bracelet went off, startling her. She startled easily more and more lately. It was strange. There was a preeminent focus to her that could be shattered in a dramatic instant. I checked mine out of habit as she left the room and realized I was behind in my test for the doctor. Another thing to keep up with. Watch me juggle, watch me dance. I twitched a flipper, trying to move my hips to no result. Okay, maybe dancing was out, but I could still juggle. My tablet tumbled out of my paws as if in defiance of any remaining confidence of my ability to function, sliding firmly out of reach. Shit. I barked at it in anger, feeling frustrated. Sonia poked her head out of the kitchen. "Problem?" she asked with a yawn. I heard the click of the device on the counter and could distantly smell the chocolatey-looking liquid's artificial scent. Plastic, human, spy juice. I was very tired of it. 2 weeks to tank. Just 2 more weeks. And I'd be done. Ricky walked in with 2 more fillets. Yawning, the cabin was suddenly a bustling center of activity. "I dropped my tablet." Ricky and Sonia both scanned the floor and found it, handing it back to me. As Sonia's rang, she quickly excused herself to take it. "Breakfast?" he offered, handing me one of them, a beautifully cut fillet of fish steak. I devoured it raw. I did not care. "I'll take that as a yes." Ricky watched on in amazement, taking the other and began breading and frying it. Part of me felt like he was ruining it. A series of panicked noises erupted from Sonia's bedroom, and she exploded forward back into the living room in a flurry of activity. "Shit, shit, shit!" She was freaking out. Then she fell over, almost fainting. "Easy. Remember how it is when you panic," I reminded her, and she began to breathe deeper. We've been getting a lot of practice in the last few weeks. "Big problem," she gasped out. "Regional office. Lost a form. Couldn't find me. License. Up in the air," she rattled off. "Shit, that is bad," I said. Her breathing spiked briefly up, showing clearly my blunder. "What does that mean?" Ricky asked. I heard the cooking fillet flip in the pan. My mouth watered. Ruined or not, I wanted some. "If I don't have a license, we have to find someone else to do the forms. We're already on a shoestring. Fucked!" Okay, that's what could happen. How do we keep it from happening? They were both tired and at the end of their day. It was keeping us from solutions and focusing only on the problem. "I can fill out the forms, but I need to get them in tonight. Buddy of mine in processing can rush 'em through," she replied. her panic again rising. I got it. You're about to 12, aren't you? It was an unwritten law of the shifting process, it seemed, that after 12 hours awake you were normally down for 12 to 18. It was just the way it worked. You could set your watch by it. She nodded. Already feeling it. Hard to focus. Fatigued. Ricky? I asked, seeking options. Within an hour or two of the same, he replied, leaving it up to me. I chittered, turning it over in my head. If you fill out the forms, and I brought them down to the regional office in Los Angeles, would that fix this? I asked. How would you get there? Ricky asked. Well, that did present a problem. What about a private shuttle? It's expensive, but not nearly as much as paying a tax attorney. Not to mention, we don't have the time to look. We could take it out of the discretionary fund. It was a dwindling resource at best, but this was an emergency. Sonia jabbed at her tablet, obviously entering numbers and working it out with a sigh. I hate to say it, but it's our best option. Still, LA, alone, in your state? Her worry was evident. This thing rolls on its own when I push the stick. So all I really have to do is sit here and deliver papers. Should be easy. A worry went through me as I said it. Famous last words. Okay, I'll make the arrangements. Sonia surrendered to my logic, wearily. Ricky plopped down with his half of the trout fillet and began to dive in. He cut off a quarter and offered it to me. I devoured it, feeling, as always, hungry. Thanks for doing all of this, he said. We're a family, Ricky. This has us all tied together. I've got a place to sleep and fish to eat because of you. I reminded him, and he simply nodded. Yeah, still, if it's not one thing, it's another, man. News is getting bad all the time. It's eating at me, you know? The ugliness. Want to get out there where it's clean, leave it all behind, start over, away from all the stuff that's holding us back. He took a drink of water from a glass and set it on the table. Then he paused, reflective. Remember, we are getting out. Eventually they're going to run out of hoops. It's inevitable. We have the ship, we have the people, we have the will. We're going to make it, Ricky. Just think, in 10 years, Sentioc might be the place to shift. A world where people go to be free. It was hard not to feel utopian about the future. As the world grew more ugly, the colony committee was drawing together tighter and tighter. Pioneers, far from the sins of our forefathers, striking out onto the new frontier. Sonia reemerged, looking half dead from fatigue, holding a manila packet. The shuttle is ours for the day, and we'll be here in an hour. I wrote the instructions on the front of the packet, and I'll go sleep now. Thank you, she announced, without further ceremony or preamble, dragging herself heavily towards her bedroom. Screen? Ricky offered. Sure, I agreed. He turned on the news. Blah. Time to catch up on function tests. A notification popped up on my tablet. Private transport arriving in 48 minutes. Spiffy. Find the blue square. One of my favorites. Protests continue on continental capitals and regional centers over the Treaty of Gates and the passage of funding in UEA Parliament for the opening of 150 new shifting clinics, part of Phase 1 implementation following completion of the first half of the Morphic Beta program in November. They were talking about us! A bit of pride rushed through me as the screen lit up red and the tablet vibrated. I had missed something. Damn distractions. Ricky had fallen asleep on the couch, curled up, head resting on his hand paws. Quietly, I reached over and turned off the screen, and pushed the stick to move me outside and wait for transport. With my hoodie and under the blanket, I could truly enjoy the beauty of the snow. My fur was getting quite thick and seemed to be fully in over my face, which was a boon in this colder climate. I could feel the weather through it, distantly, but overall, was content and comfortable. Finishing the math part of the test, simple arithmetic, and multiplications, I checked my time. 45 minutes for the day. I was nearing my goal, but that also meant my shuttle would be arriving soon. A black, shiny executive shuttle drifted down from the sky, alighting gracefully in the yard, a stunning juxtaposition to Ricky's ancient rusted craft. It was boxy, but it had a glossy obsidian finish. Even its windows were tinted. The pilot in a suit jogged down the ramp, confirmed he was there for me, and wheeled me up with hardly a word. Sonia had gone a little overboard in making certain I would be okay. All right, miss, is there anything I can get you? Champagne for the trip, or perhaps water? Some caviar, he offered. Caviar? How much had she spent? I desperately wanted to try some, but feared what all this was costing. Guilt got the better of me. Just water for now, thanks, but could you loosen the cap? It was embarrassing to rely so much on a stranger, but he seemed eager to attend to every demand. No problem at all, miss, he replied and handed it over. What's your name? I'm Joyce, Joyce Coswell. You don't need to be so formal. I'm kind of overwhelmed by all of this, I admitted. I was a simple nurse and a simple otter. I'm Kareem Ali. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. He offered his hand, and I offered my paw. He took it graciously and shook it. It felt good to know there were still humans in the world that weren't afraid of us. Excuse me a moment. This is Execucar 1078 requesting guidance information for flight path into Los Angeles on the 5 Memorial Skyway. Roger that. Proceed to coordinates and execute path. Safe flight. Flight control kicked off. 30 minutes to LA, miss, he replied. The craft lifted off, and I watched out of my large tinted window, which took up much of one side of the craft. Once we hit a certain altitude, the craft turned. We are at 3,500 meters and on our way to LA, Kareem announced. By the way, do you know why they call this skylane the Memorial 5? No, but I'd love to know. The conversation was keeping my mind off my anxiety of being in LA alone. It was a wretched hive, regardless of its international prestige. In a world of gleaming, golden cities, Los Angeles was pyrite, as fake and manufactured as the film industry that was once based there. Back in the age of nations, that road you can see below us was something called an interstate. It was a trade and military thing. The I-5 was its name, he offered. Well, that was interesting. Why'd they call it the 5, not the 1 or the 672 or something? I pushed. He shrugged. I don't know. Still, it's a fun bit of trivia. The highway below stretched out to the horizon like a ribbon. They were mainly used by the drone haulers for shipping goods and local access. Shuttles were so much faster and ubiquitous, much better for distant travel. The LA skyline began to become visible. Rows of impossibly tall skyscrapers dotted the landscape, most with large platforms radiating out from their top decks in rows of 2 or 3. Shuttle parking. The craft began to angle for one of them, pitching low. It appeared for a moment we were heading right for the building, but gradually a black space resolved out of the greater picture as the shuttle glided into a large bay, coming to rest in a pad for shuttles of its service. All right, Miss Coswell, I'll be right here waiting for you, he announced, flicking buttons and lowering the ramp. Rolling myself down it, I navigated to the elevator without much effort. All of these buildings were designed with accessibility access in mind, and not having to move was saving me a lot of energy. I had been up the entire 30-minute trip into LA after a full breakfast. Watch out, world, here I come! Everything was smooth sailing as I rolled up the secured area and emptied my pockets, surrendering my tablet and my headphones, having nothing else. Miss, can you remove your bracelet and put your hand on the console? The security officer asked politely. I can't remove the bracelet. It's medical and locked on, but it serves as my ID. He raised a suspicious eyebrow. I scanned my bracelet, not my hand, and he rose. You need to follow my instructions, miss, or I'm going to need to notify a supervisor, he threatened. I'm trying. I'm amorphic. My code is in flux, and thus the system won't read by GAM properly. I'm under the care of Dr. Andropov. United Earth Medical. I'm just here to drop off forms, I explained. He rose roughly, grabbed my paw, and held it down to the scanner. Anomaly detected flashed in red over the screen. What the fuck is going on here? The guard replied, ignoring my words, growing more panicked. Supervisor, I need a supervisor and backup in here right now, code T3. Everything appeared calm, but then I heard the doors in front of me seal and lock. Then the elevator sealed and locked, save for one, from which a security team soon erupted out of. Shit. I was wheeled off into an interview room. Then it got worse. Please stop, you're hurting me, I begged. One security guard was holding me up, my skeleton screaming while another patted me down. It was only the property of ECC do not remove label inscribed into my bracelet that prevented its removal. This had become a nightmare. Mercifully, they set me back down in my chair, roughly. My frame popped like it was part xylophone. Then they took my voice collar. We'd like you to answer some questions. A supervisor sat down behind a table in the small interview room I was in. I chirped angrily and gestured towards the collar. You need to speak up, he said. I gestured more towards the collar. He finally got that. You need that to talk, he puzzled, gesturing to it. I chirped in confirmation, nodding. Okay, he replied hesitantly, sliding it with shaking hand over towards me. Trembling, with fumbling paws, I slid it on. It took far longer than it should have with my limited dexterity and terror making my paws numb. Finally, I heard the latch click. Focus on connecting, don't curse. Excuse me? Sorry, it takes a moment to connect. I have to focus, I replied. So what the heck is going on here? You're one of those mixers, right? He asked, using the more offensive slang. Morphic is the preferred term. I'm in the first 250 under the care of Dr. Andropov. My name is Joyce Coswell, I repeated. My heart was racing, and this was wearing me out. Still, I didn't have the luxury of being sick at the moment. Please, whoever is up there watching over me, let me get through this. Couldn't imagine what it would be like if they decided to hold me. Why didn't you explain this to the officer at the checkpoint? He demanded. I did, sir. All due respect. I explained my code was in shift and that my bracelet worked as my ID. I gave him my doctor's name. He said something about T3, and the next thing I know, I'm here. I was dropping off the forms you took for my lawyer friend. I name-dropped Sonia casually. He coughed. A part of him went a little white at the mention of an attorney. She was right. People did fear lawyers. Something John taught me once went through my head. Perceived power is achieved power. I'll just slip out and make some calls to United Earth Medical. It shouldn't be long, he replied, and excused himself. 45 minutes ticked by. Nervousness ate at me. Finally, he re-emerged with my tablet, headphones, and packet. Very sorry for the mix-up. Let me just finish this form and you'll be free to go. He rapidly scribbled upon a blue sheet of paper that said release of suspect on top of it. I felt as if I had definitely earned my caviar, making a mental note to try it on the way home. Would you point me to the right department? I asked. No, ma'am. We can't let you back into a secure area, but I'll deliver your packet. Who's it going to? He offered, as a type of compromise. This made no sense. I'm sorry, but it's rather important I give it to him directly. He's waiting on this. It's essential. I couldn't just hand this off to some nameless person. Look, he said, pausing with a sigh. Your story checks out. Dr. Andropov confirmed everything. Identified your bracelet as military tech. But I can't let you back there, he said, mysteriously. What is this? What's going on? I demanded. It's from higher up. That's all I can say. Without a working GAN, regardless of your ID bracelet, I can't clear you through our security. But I have rights. I'm a UEA citizen, damn it. I deserve access to my officials. This guy is a bureaucrat in a department, not a tech on a defense platform, I argued. Look, stay calm, please. I don't want this to escalate. Seriously, miss, I'm on your side, but not everyone here is. His voice dropped to a low conspiratorial whisper. My commander is ready to throw your ass in holding and lose your paperwork for 72 hours, if you know what I mean. The only reason you aren't right now is Andropov. I don't want the trouble, so how about you do us both a favor? Trust me to get your packet to the gentleman and get out of here before we both have a pain in the ass we don't want to deal with. His tone was urgent and insistent. It was clear he didn't give a shit about me. Compromise, okay? Call him. Have him meet me down here. I'll hand it off. I'll be gone within half an hour. This way I could at least see the transfer. He paused, considering it, looking towards the obvious two-way mirror in the back. Deal, he replied, and disappeared to make the arrangement. It was a simple matter. A nervous-looking man wearing a button-down dress shirt and black pants appeared. Your typical, generic government bureaucrat, about 5'7" and in his early 30s. Thanks for going to all the trouble, he said. No problem at all, I lied. Tell Sonia hi for me, he replied quickly and left. I had an armed escort back to my transport. It was just another reason to hate LA. Chapter 17. We'll get through this chapter, then we'll be done for the week. The I-5 Memorial Skyway. Now you will recall that Joyce drove in the beginning of the book. But in her world, once again, something about the Farthest Star universe, the idea of taking a road trip across the country, which takes at least 2 or 3 days, or even taking a road trip to the nearest city, which takes hours, seems ridiculous when you can take a shuttle that lifts off from the spaceport and be there within about half an hour to an hour, anywhere in the world. They got I think it was an hour-and-a-half trip, and they were able to go to United Earth Medical, which is in The Hague in the Netherlands. So, yeah, the long continental roadways that are so ubiquitous to our day-to-day life. By the way, I'm also a Washingtonian that sees the 5 every time I want to go down to Vancouver or Portland. That's just not part of their world anymore. It's not part of their culture. You might drive a car if you need to get around your local city like that. But if you're heading out of town, you're most likely going through the spaceport. The one thing that the highways are largely used for is something called drone haulers, which are basically giant truck trains that are automated that haul goods from city to city by slow boat because there's so much shuttle traffic, and all of that. But there's Shuttle Express and stuff like that. A minor bit of, but yeah, we actually see one of the characters actually mail themselves somewhere in a later novel. Spoiler alert. But that novel's released, so, it's been out for a while. But yeah, the entire world is recognizable, but the world is different. There's a delivery service that primarily operates by drone called the Sahara Drone Service. You won't really see it mentioned too much here except by its utility. But they also own this store that's very famous for the color blue called Megamart. And they use the Megamarts are now all 2 stories, and the second story is all automated drone delivery services. They use them as hubs. And then there's your traditional discount mega store below it, where people do their shopping if they don't want to order delivery by drone. That's getting deep into the weeds. Enjoy, Ellie. Be safe out there. Thanks for coming. Here's chapter 17, and then we'll be wrapped up for the day. Man, forget this planet, Ricky said dismissively by the firelight. We were out under the stars on the moonlit night. I was nearing my 12, but they were just getting started. I had been catching them up on the adventures of the day. I tried the caviar on the way home, I admitted. So how was it? Sonia asked. I like trout better. It's kind of salty. Just didn't hit the right notes for me. It's an acquired taste for humans, too. I wonder if I'd still like it. Who knows? The only thing I really want is meat anymore, and lots of things upset my stomach, Ricky admitted. I'm not too much different, I replied. Never going to forget watching you scarf down that trout raw. You're a wild animal, he teased. Pretty close, actually, I admitted. Well, wasn't that kind of the point? Sonia asked the crowd. Nah, you're wrong there. It's about being who you are. I know what they told us about neural imprinting and all that, but it's more than that. It's not just some clinical thing. This is real, you know? Ricky replied, trying to find the words. It's like when I look in the mirror, I don't really recognize myself anymore, but I do at the same time. Every day the mask eats away a little bit more, almost as if it's getting harder to hide. Like the bots are shining a light on me that I can't escape from. No more lies or shadows, Sonia mused, staring into the fire. It's gotten kind of boring for me. I know I'm changing. I can't ignore it, but it's been my life for months now. Lately I can't help but look beyond. A chance to start over, on a new world. The clean slate. Free. The emotion surged in me. My fur remained dry. Emotional chirps and chitters escaped my throat. A whimpering chirr followed, but no tears. Another link in the chains of my humanity had fallen away. The last shadows of my curse were fading. Gratitude, firm and deep, that it was now, that this was my time, surged through my being. In that moment I yearned for the tank. That last step, the final bits of my curse broken as I drifted, silently reforming, moving towards my now inevitable destiny. I snuggled down into my warm blanket with the idea and sleepily enjoyed the fire. You know, out there, it's a 13-month year, Ricky volunteered. I nodded in agreement with his facts. Asteroid moon, too. Not quite round like ours. It's going to be quiet. I'm looking forward to the quiet, Sonia reported. The latest probe showed that Syntioc had nothing but plant life. It was a strange blue-green world, mostly forest, with low mountains, and even lower seismicity. It had oceans, though, places to swim. There was a whole new planet to discover and explore. I wondered what awaited me in its depths. My mind danced with possibilities. Something twitched. My left flipper cramped, and a guttural, throaty growl rumbled. You okay? Sonia checked in. Yeah, I think so. A muscle tensed high in my hip, then cramped, then tore. There was a muffled pop that caused Ricky and Sonia to both leap to their feet and regard each other worriedly. I screamed. An animalistic screeching growl wailed out of my throat as my world sprung into patterns of agony. Distantly, in concert with my screams, I heard a wailing tone as my left paw vibrated. Danger! Danger! My wrist bracelet reported. Everything got woozy as the endorphins hit. My world drifted in and out in burning, tortured agonies of awareness. Panda, go back! Ricky snapped, and Sonia darted off. I was moving, then vaguely up. Someone was carrying me? Another twitch, a desperate howling now. Oh gods, was I dying? What was this? Please, make it stop! For the love of whatever is out there, make it stop! How is she? Sonia charged up the ramp, out of breath. She leaned, woozy herself. Strap in, Ricky ordered. I just saw her skull move. Something's not right. We have to get her to the med center. Mayday! Mayday! This is Civilian Transport Hellcat requesting priority vectoring and guidance for emergency medical transport. United Earth Medical Center. Request received, Hellcat. Verifying flight credentials. Lieutenant Commander, your credentials have been confirmed. Scramble launch is authorized. Emergency path has been pushed to your guidance. Safe flight and good luck. Sweethearts, this is going to be some cowboy shit. Hold on. Though panicked, there was a pleased sort of tone to his urgency. An intense feeling of G's as the craft rapidly gained altitude. It hurt, but I simply added it to the chorus. Sonia screamed briefly, then she passed out. Another twinge of high, searing agony sent a desperate, chittering growl again through my throat as the process repeated with my other hind leg. Why wouldn't I pass out? White flashes again and again and again, heralding an ever-increasing choir of agony. I howled in pain until my throat felt raw. In waves it came, all the way to the medical center. He landed and the ramp dropped. Before I knew it, Andropov was on board. Relax, my little Vidura. All will be okay now. There was a pinprick in my left arm, and then I was still awake, but everything was dreamy, kind of hazy. The fire got distant. This just got fun. Hi, Doc. I think I love you, I reported. The yellow canary flitted down and alighted upon the edge of the shuttle. Where's the kitty? I asked. The scene shifted, a chromatic flash of colors and lights, kaleidoscopic parades of prismatic loveliness. A room, a series of beeps, that strange Russian accent. Andropov, a scent. New. A man. Dr. Miller, I'm certain you will agree we need to thank her now. We have waited far too long, Andropov insisted. This couldn't be Tank Day. It was weeks away. Still, this was a happy dream. I warned them about dragging it out like this. 2 months, no more. 3 with her architecture. Look at these spikes. You put her in a wheelchair? He was criticizing my friend. It made me vaguely angry. My hands were tied. I've made the same arguments, but Central Command gave me the same reply over and over. She signed the papers. It is a beta trial. It was hard to track the words, though I could hear them all. Push the initiators. We need to drop her down. They talked like I wasn't in the room. Strange alien coldness vibrating up my arm. What was going? Blackness. Whole, deep, and complete. Warmth. The sea. Dreams. Dreams like I had always wanted to have. There was the rocky cove, the kelp forest with the good mussels, the strange creatures that sometimes left fish, tasty fish. Sometimes it was in these round steel things, rectangles with bright flashing lights. Dreams. So many dreams. I was an otter. This was not fleeting. No passing flash of distant awareness. This was me. A new life, the closing of an old one. That strange coldness. That vibration. A new world now, pushing out towards the waves. Others like me. The chittering, the closeness, the bonding. New ways to be, to feel, to hope, to know, to love. Blissful happiness, a completeness I had never known. A distant life of strange proportions now far from me, like a passing nightmare. I never wanted it to end. I forgot it could end. I forgot everything and learned it all again. Then a pull, a vague sensation of up and expansion, and sunrise. Light building, awareness cracking through the dark, the dream falling away to reality. No, not again. Desperately clinging to my last ounce of unconsciousness, as if by instinct, awareness rocketed across my perception, wrenching it from me. My eyes snapped open in the tank. Everything felt different, but not. My body, somehow, felt like mine. There was a mask over my muzzle. It bothered me. My forepaws twitched and I drifted in the tank, peering out. Such a strange water. Thick, viscous fluid. Memories vaguely flittered in. I looked down. My paw. My paw fully formed. I moved it through the thick liquid. Joy. Everything felt right. This was new, but not. Wholeness. A completeness I had never known. I had done it. I had found a way to become myself. A nurse stepped up to the tank. It opened, and I was lifted out. Fluffy towel and a warm bath. I was in and out for the next few hours, heady and drifty, then suddenly sleep. Time passed. Joyce? Joyce! I chittered in curiosity, which melted into a series of happy plaintive barks when I noticed Dr. Andropov. Every part of my body vibrated and wiggled in excitement as he handed me a voice collar. Chittering more, I eagerly slid it on. Focus, 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 turn on, it reported. Andropov chuckled. I'm an otter! I'm an otter! Spinning around, back arching up instinctively to make up for my long length out of the water, flippers slapping against the bed. Easy, easy, yes, and quite a lovely otter at that. Welcome back, little Vidra, and happy Halloween. You've been asleep a long time. Now, I know you're very excited, but I need to run some quick tests, he said. Same Dr. Andropov, all business. Games! I reported. Same old new me. If you wish. Name. Joyce Coswell, I chirred happily. Where are you at the moment? United Earth Medical Center, I think. It certainly smells right. He made a few notes on his clipboard. What are you doing? I added. Just notes. You know the routine, he excused, making more notes. But what kind of notes? He sighed and sat down on the bed next to me, letting me watch. An explosion of happy chirrs erupted from within. You are a most distracting creature, he commented absently. Sorry, Doc. A low whine punctuated my words. It was a form. He was making observations. Strangely, it was marked classified. Oh, he probably shouldn't have been showing me that. It was a secret. Extreme curiosity, reduced attention, play-oriented, animalistic vocalizations, degree of integration, 95.2%. Patient stable in spite of threshold violation. I felt special. Hyperactive as always, and a bit distractible. He snapped his finger, then waved his clipboard. My neck vertebrae popped from my sudden movement, trying to track it all. But everything seems to be in order. From everything I can see here, you are a normal and healthy sea otter, with a bit more erudite. He smiled. Now, are you feeling up for visitors? He asked. Yes, please, I responded eagerly, sitting up in the bed on my hind flippers, forepaws hanging in front, eagerly watching the door. He patted my head and walked out. Hey there, Aqua Girl, happy Halloween. I love your costume, John said, entering. Like an otter-sized missile, I rocketed across the room and pushed up against him, emitting a happy chirr. Hey there. Whoa, I missed you too. You've lost weight. I'm hungry. Do you want to eat? It's great to see you. The excitement was driving my hyperactivity, my elation burning like an undying fire. I was an otter. Do you want me to answer those in list or essay form? He chuckled and gently petted the fur on the top of my head. In an act of instinct, I pushed up into it, twitching my forepaw with a happy chitter. Look at me! Look at me! I spun around, full of vanity. A deep look of longing crossed his face, and it immediately grounded me some, and I snuggled back up to him in an effort to comfort. Your day's gonna come, and I'll be there, just like you were for me. I promise. Trust me, this is greater than you'll ever imagine, I assured. My life renewed. I was born again. And that is our reading portion for the week. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of the story. I can't help but smile. You know, she's been through the hard, she's been through the valleys, she's maintained her dream, and now she's at the mountaintop. And it's just, yeah, this is real stuff. You know, I really, oh, it's my favorite part of the story, I swear. So, 95.2% threshold violation. It's inferred, but not fully explained, that they only want to integrate so far between human and animal. Now, the thing is, genetically, humans share about 50% of their DNA in common with a banana. I'm not joking. Like, there is an outstandingly compact code base for all life on this planet. I don't know about other planets. Haven't been there, hopefully yet. But anyway, they didn't want to integrate the morphics past 95%. Because after 95%, you start getting more into the neural effects. You start getting more into the breakdowns of dexterity and stuff where it gets even more problematic. And so because of that earlier surge, I mean, I guess they were still experimenting. Joyce ended up 95.2. And that 0.2%, you can see it with the hyperactivity, the distractedness, how play-oriented she's become. But the thing is that plays into her natural strengths because she was already kind of, she was already got daughter and soul. She was always that, joyful, rambunctious creature. But yeah, that's the explanation there. Humans are bananas. Yes, they are. More ways than one, Finley. Yes, they are. So you seem like you're really enjoying the story, and that is honestly a joy for me. I really appreciate you've been here so much on the Saturdays. I really enjoy talking with you while I'm reading this. I'm also often lurking in the Discord chat room. I'm kind of a natural introvert. Surprise, surprise. So I don't often initiate and except under like very unique circumstances. And a lot of times I feel more like an advertising bot. Be sure to join us for the next readings with Rebecca, kind of thing. But no, I'm in the Discord chat or at least watching it, and I'm always here for you guys to talk to. If you have questions, you want to start up something about history, talk about the universe, um, all of that. I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, now we get to see her life as an otter starting next week with chapter 18. We're moving right on through this book. Well, Finley, that means a lot to me, and we're going to keep being there on Saturdays at noon. I mean, you guys, my patrons, and my family that's here in this chat, you really keep us going. I mean, we don't make that much. We're not exactly breaking even as a business, but it takes a long time to get established and to get going as an author. And you guys being there in the early stages and believing in us enough that you're willing to donate $2 a month, $6 a month, $10 a month, it means the world. So me showing up every Saturday to read the books that you have every right to have access to, it is the least I can do to say thank you. I don't want to sound contrived. I don't want this to sound put upon, but every single dollar is a vote of confidence in my work. It validates the work of my editors, all of that. And I want you to know how important you all are, how much of a difference you've made in each of our lives just through that donation that, as I like to say, is, for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money. It's about the fact that you believe in us enough to send it. Not to get too sentimental on you guys, but from the bottom of my heart, thank you. There are two things in my life that I feel greatly called to do. One of them is to write stories and share them. The other one is to hike. Which in our society is like, good luck, I hope you like living on a budget. But God's be praised, through the love of a very amazing husband who has encouraged me to chase my dreams, I'm achieving both of those. I'm able to write my books. I'm able to share them with the world. And, in March, as I've said many times, I'm heading out on the Pacific Crest Trail, and I'm starting the second part of my career, expanding Wandering Hops into Snow on the Trail as an adventure and hiking blogger. And I can't believe I'm there. I was talking the other day with someone, and they said something very poignant, because I was lamenting the fact that the hardest part about leaving in March is that I'm going to be gone till September. I'm going to be 6 months walking from Mexico to Canada over rough terrain and altitude sickness. There's going to be lots of challenges ahead. And I asked them, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to be there. I'm not going to be able to help. And they said, but you have the opportunity to live your dreams. And you're very lucky and you're very privileged that you can live your dreams. Not everybody gets that chance. So you should go for it. Because there has to be a reason for it. Something like that. And that struck me as very profound. I don't have to be on the New York Times bestseller list. I don't have to be a multimillionaire to recognize the fact that I am profoundly lucky. I am profoundly lucky to be able to pursue my passions and to be able to share them. So long story short of this rambling soliloquy, thank you. Thank you very much for being a subscriber. It means more than I think I'll ever be able to put into words, and as a very long-winded writer, that's saying something. Well, guys, it's getting late in the day. Got to be up at 11 o'clock at night to go train at the gym. I realized today that tonight begins my last 3 weeks at the gym. 15 workout sessions remain. And then I have 15 sessions of shakedown where I'm hiking 15 miles and living in my tent for 3 weeks. Then I got a few days off and then I'm on the trail. Don't worry, I'll still be here for readings with Rebecca, as I said, up until that, up until we're done with Dawnbreak and up until I head out on the PCT. So, I'd like to thank you all again for joining me. We'll see you next Saturday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Finley, you have a great week. To all of our viewers out there, the silent majority, you guys have a great week. We'll talk to you then. Until next time, onward towards the farthest star. And